Damn these
Biloxi blues, it happens every night.
every night.
And I ain't never met a riverboat dealer that could ever be a friend of mine.
Nope.
Someone
have
who
not.
never treats me kind, it
Leaves trouble on my mind.
So I'm bidding farewell, putting in my notes,
See.
and I'll see you at another time. This highway does not know my name, and I don't care.
Nope.
No,
Not even
don't
really like kind of care, you know?
headed my way for another place, and I got 3 good tires and a spare.
Right to the hook right here. Just a white line.
Gypsy getting out of Mississippi with just enough gas to get
Oh! Budgets. Live, not so live from the Low Budget Live Bar and Grill here in beautiful southern Middle Tennessee. And I hope all you low lifers are doing well out there. This is the podcast for Monday, September the 11th, 2023. And it's, man, I was getting ready for the show today, and honestly, I didn't even realize what the date was. And I actually thought it was the 10th for the show. And yeah, it's weird. It's anytime you say that date, I think if you don't kind of get taken back a little bit, then you were probably too young to remember, to be honest, and to what happened. And so I think that it's always good to talk about it and to bring it up. And I think that's a day that obviously none of us will ever forget if you were old enough to remember that day. And man, I last year I got to go to the Twin Towers Memorial there, Freedom Towers, I think they call it now, in New York City. And I think I talked about it on the show, but I don't think I've ever been, I know I've never been moved really by anything like that in my life. And so emotional. It's just being there and like putting your hands on their fountains now, with all the names of the ones that have fallen. And it was a lot, man. It's heavy. If you ever get a chance to go to New York City, I would say go see that. Such a crazy, terrible tragedy in our country's history, but got to remember it. And dude, I was in college. The world changed forever, though, man. That's all you can say about that. So still, of course, everything I got goes towards the family's, thoughts, prayers. That date will always haunt them for sure. So not to open on a somber note, but man, that was just such a blow to our country and such a change. Like you think about airline travel alone and how much we all just now kind of get on, if you're into Twitter or whatever social media platform that you like to bitch on and talk about, these security lines and this, that, and the other. It all started that day. Like all the take your shoes off, all the, I mean, and I joke because that's very insignificant to what actually happened, obviously. But holy crap, that day. And man, I'll kind of end this little intro on this is that day. I'll never forget. I was in college, University of North Alabama, and had just got home from class, and my neighbor, who we thought was really hot, let's just throw that out there. Me and 3 of my buddies living in an apartment next to this lady that's a pharmaceutical rep. She's probably in her mid-30s. We loved her. Okay, I'll just throw that part out there. It's very important. So she's like sitting on the front porch smoking a cigarette, which made her look even cooler. Let's be honest. But anyways, she's sitting there. She's like rocking back and forth when I come up the steps. And I'm like, hey, how are you? And she's just like, she's like looking just, deadpan away. And she was always very, very sweet to us. And and cut up back and forth. And I'm like, are you okay? Is everything okay? Because I thought, oh, man, somebody, passed away in her life. And she goes, have you not seen the news or heard? And I had been coming home from class, and like the first plane had hit. And she's like, we're under attack. And I'm like, what? She's like, we're under attack. And she is, man, she's rocking, smoking a cigarette. And I go in, and my roommates are like just staring at the TV. And about the time I walk in, the second plane hits. And I'm like, what in the hell is going on? And they didn't cancel classes that day. And I had a history class that afternoon. I'll never forget this. And the teacher is a small group of kids, and some didn't come, elected not to come. And we get in there, and we'd been in there about 5-10 minutes, and we're talking about, she's trying to make a point of, globally the implications and what could happen and go into war and who could be responsible and blah, blah, blah. We're talking it out. And as you tend to do. And all of a sudden, over the campus at the University of North Alabama, this plane flew over. And it was like just a small, like twin engine, something, but you hear it. And dude, she just immediately, once we all kind of started noticing it, she just went dead silent. And we just sat there, and it passed by, and she's like, class dismissed. And I'll never forget that as long as I live, just because it was so powerful in that moment, that just that noise, like everything changed that day about planes and just what you thought of the world and how safe it was. But crazy. So Low Budget Live for September 11th. And man, what a day. What a day that we will, even over 20 years later, we will never, ever, 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 ever forget. That is for sure. Want to thank the sponsors real fast of this fine program that all you low lifers tune in week in and week out for. StarTron, kicking ethanol in the teeth. It's that time of year where you're going to be putting the boat up a little bit. Maybe you live in a part of the world where the water gets hard. The water gets a little hard in your part of the world. Put you some StarTron in the tank before you store that boat to make sure when you go to crank it up the next time that ethanol, stupid dumb ethanol, has not gummed up the works and ruined it. A little dab will do you. StarTron, kicking ethanol in the teeth. Pro Guide Batteries. ProGuideBatteries.com. You can use code LBL10 there to save you some coin on some of the best lithium batteries in the game and the best AGM batteries in the game. I dare say they've been making those for many, many moons now. They are trusted by multiple OEM bass boat manufacturers, and that is a seal of approval that is very hard to get. Ask me how I know. I do that on a daily basis in the old day job. It's very hard to get in at the OEM level, and Pro Guy's done a fantastic job of that over the years. They've been in the game for a long time. They're not a fly-by-night company, that is for sure. You can check out their full line of batteries at ProGuideBatteries.com. Use code LBL10 to let them know you are a low lifer. Baitworks.com, bait-works.com. That is bait-wrx.com, and DUNKIN-10, Duncan-10 for the win. It's going to save you money there on all your tackle needs. You can even get the LOB jig, the Power Finesse jig there. This little cricket right here caught me some on the LOB this past Friday, doing a little up the creeks in the old Express, flipping that little jig on some wood, and caught me a bunch on the LOB jig. The only jig that's got the LBL logo, podcast logo, right there on the packaging, but exclusively at baitworks.com. But we're headed into topwater time, glide baiting season, man. Lots of things available there at Baitworks for the fall fishing season. Bait-works.com. And last but not least, hang the imaginary banner. Express Boats, Hot Springs, Arkansas, the Bassmaster Classic, winning first ever Bassmaster Classic one out of an aluminum bass boat, all welded, 21 feet of fury. Got that Yamaha show on the back. They run all Yamahas out there at Express, no matter the model. But the 250 show pushes the X21 out of the hole at an insane speed. More tackle storage than you can shake a stick at. C deck, bow to stern. It's an option. You don't have to get C deck, but I would suggest it. Love that C deck. I had a buddy of mine call me this week and was like, all right, man, off the record, do you really like that stuff or would you get carpet? He's looking at getting him an Express. And I said, I would never have carpet again. I hate carpet. I don't have carpet in my house. I don't want, no. SeaDeck's the way to go. So Express Boats, it's a family out there. You can check them all out at expressboats.com. Building excitement since 1966. All right. Hope everybody's doing well out there in the low-lifer land. Maybe I should start a theme park. Low-lifer land. Just thought of that. That'd be fun, right? Low-lifer land. I don't know what we do. Just sit around have like the mom's basement corner. The mom's basement coaster. Not corner. Mom's basement coaster. I hope you're all doing well out there, and I hope that you didn't get too triggered by the Bassmaster schedule announcement this week. You know, I made a stupid Instagram reel with my guy Tim Robinson from I Think You Should Leave that everybody's used. That you sure about that? You sure about that? When I said all Bassmaster pros, they all made the same post on a majority made the post of what do you think about the schedule, guys? And dude, people just get rowdy about schedules. And I've said this for years and years and years, and not to just go into too much of a thing about it, but there's so much that goes into, and look, I was one of those people, and I still am to a certain extent. Like do I wish that Champlain and St. Lawrence weren't the only places that they really go up north besides St. Clair? Absolutely. There are a lot of great northern fisheries if you got to go up there. But I thought Bassmaster schedule was kick-ass. I loved those early Texas events, the later in the year Florida events. I think it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a good year. I think the BPT schedule's kick ass. I've already said that. But these folks that are look the same places, man, and they're like, it's all about the money. Yeah, these towns do pay them to come, and it is about the money because drum roll. I don't have a real good drum roll, but I've got this. I got that. It's a business. It's a business, and it'll always be a business. And if a town pays them to come there, they're going to go there versus whatever lake in town you think they should go to that probably doesn't even know Bassmaster exists, right? That's just how it works. So I know everybody would like to see them at OH Ivy, and I don't know, just dream up whatever crazy schedule you can think of, but it's just not reality. And there are so many more factors that go into this. And like I said, I used to not understand it until working with MPFL, but boy, do I feel like I've got a really good grasp on how this goes. And dude, it's a nightmare. Scheduling is a nightmare for the leagues. And I would actually love to get somebody on here to talk about how hard scheduling is, whether somebody from MPFL or, old buddy Hank Weldon or somebody from the MLFLW side, but just to talk about how much goes into it, because it's way more than just tourism, and it's way more than, oh my gosh, they hurt your feelings because they're not coming out west, or they hurt your feelings because they go up north too much, myself included, or they hurt your feelings because of this, that, or the other. And look, West Coast anglers, because that's going to be the comments always from West Coast guys, is they don't come out here. They don't. And that does suck, because the lakes are fantastic, some really interesting fisheries out there. But I think that, again, it's a business. And when 98% of touring pros are from Texas East for the most part, it just doesn't make financial sense for them to go, hey, entire league, we're going to go out here and when gas is super high. And will they come back eventually? Absolutely. I think they'll come back out west. They love going out west and doing those swings. But I think right now with gas where it's at, where gas is out on the West Coast, with some of the I think those cities don't really throw money at it, the cities out west, like ours do. And I think when you're trying to book these schedules, you do tend to, you're going to work with the cities that are going to work with you. And not just financially, but you're going to, the ones that are easier to work with, that's what you're going to tend to do. You can, my mic is really cutting out there. It's got a short in it. But I think that those Western towns, it's just not as easy for them to do that. And then you got to think about this though. Ultimately, the customers, and we can all bitch and moan. If you're a West Coast guy and you're pissed that they're not coming out West, you can type to your fingers bleed about how they need to come back out there and how upset you are. But ultimately, the customer base is the guys paying the entry fees. That's the customer base. And they can't afford to piss off 100 guys and go, guess what? We're going to go have 4 tournaments out West. Now, I dare say if it wasn't for the cost of it and the 3-day drive to just go out there for a couple weeks, all the pros are up for going to different places. They really are, like the ones I know. But I also think that most of them are totally okay with the Bassmaster schedule that they have to fish next year. For sure. I'm sure there's some gripes and complaints here and there. But people just, y'all love to get rowdy. You love to get negative on the old schedule drops. And I don't know. There's a lot that goes into it, man. And look, again, West Coast guys, not picking on you, certainly not trying to single you out at all, because when they went to Havas, dude, epic tournaments, Clear Lake, the Delta, all that stuff. And there's so many others out there that are incredible that I would love to see. What's the lake? It's slipping my mind that they had the one bass, the U.S. Open last year. Oh my God! Like, get out there. Presents a unique challenge for sure, especially for East Coast guys, just like the West Coast guys. And look, again, they pack their crap up and come east to compete. And look, I don't think that's necessarily fair, but they're in the minority, and I think as long as it's that way, you'll obviously have most of your tournaments based in the Southeast, Midwest. But look, I saw people complaining from Missouri and Arkansas. Look, I get it. There's a lot of fisheries that get left off, but there's only so many dates, and again, there's so much that goes into it. But overall, Bassmaster schedule I think is really cool. Toledo Bend will be dumb. The only thing that bums me out there is that BPT is going just a couple weeks before. I wish that they weren't both going to the same fishery within a couple weeks of each other, but those are both going to be killer events, so I feel like, weather permitting. And guys got a lot to look forward to, for sure. All right, we're going to talk to an interesting cat today. This is a fellow that I've known for quite a while now. I competed against him on the FLW Tour. He's a fantastic young angler. He got his first win last year on the Elite Series at Oahe, one of those odd venues there that not a typical Bassmaster venue out in the Dakotas. And he has, I was adding this up this morning, 700 to my math. It's a little over $760,000 in combined career earnings from Bass and FLW in a very young career. He has 1 win, 3 classics, multiple Forest Wood Cups. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get the sauce from him right now, all the way from Minnesota, getting ready to watch his Vikings play. Austin Felix. All right, as promised from the North Country, here he is, Austin Felix. Listen, we had a very specific time that we could get this in because of your Vikings, and I respect that. So thanks for coming on, buddy.
Yeah, it's first game of the season. I mean, first Vikings game.
Yeah.
Hope springs,
No, hey, that's it. It's like it's every year, no matter whether it's college or pro, you just like, this is it. This is our year. Everybody goes in. And I think at the pro level, it's a little more evenly matched, right? Like you do sincerely feel like you got a shot going into the first game more so than college sometimes, I think. I think that's fair to say.
I watched the Gophers last night. We're 2-0, surprisingly.
Let's go.
We're ready.
Now, are you guys, because I travel a lot, Wisconsin, Minnesota over the years, and it seems like it's more pro football oriented, though, once you get so far north, right? Because we're obviously idiots over our SEC football in the South, but college football doesn't seem to stand out as much up there.
It definitely doesn't compared to the Vikings. The whole state comes together. Plus a lot of people from North Dakota, South Dakota, Iowa, that kind of deal. We kind of steal a lot of those fans too, just because we're the closest guys around. And and the fact that colleges haven't been real great for the last 2-3 decades.
That's fair to say. It's okay.
The funniest thing was, I think 2 or 3 years ago when we actually had that really good team. I think we went 11-1 and actually got game day. And the funniest thing was one of the kids with the signs on the back of the game day said, "Don't know what to write here, never been this good."
I remember them having game day there. Now that
Yeah.
they remember that. It's amazing, dude. That's you're a golden gopher, and that and so 2-0. That's good though. I think that I go to Wisconsin a ton for MPFL, and dude, I get so caught up in like that Packer because the Titans are my team. They're an hour up the road, whatever. But I get so caught up in that, dude. The way those Packer fans are, oh my god! If I lived there, I would be chest painted at Lambeau, dude, every Sunday. Like they are all in, and the Titans are an hour and a half up the road, and I go like maybe one time a year, maybe. Used to be a lot more, but back in like the Steve McNair days, like when they first got to Nashville in the Steve McNair, Eddie George days when Peyton Manning played for the Colts, I went to a lot of those games, division rivalry games and stuff. But in the last few years, I don't go to near as many.
Yeah, I try to get to maybe one a year. I went to the playoff game last year. Obviously, that was a disappointment, but got to go when you get the opportunity.
So you seem like you should be a Kirk Cousins fan. Like, are you guys all on the Kirk Cousins bandwagon up there?
I am, honestly, just because we had so many years of just terrible quarterback play. I know how much worse it can get, and everybody's like, "Oh, we need a rookie." I'm like, we went through like 3 or 4 rookies that were just pitiful.
Yes.
And like, at least with Cousins, you feel like you have an opportunity, and if you like blindfold yourself and look at the stats or whatever, he does a good job. And that new quarterback show that's on Netflix or whatever. Actually, I feel like it endeared a lot of people to Kirk Cousins. Dude. Like, he's kind of a dork, but he does this thing.
That's what I was getting at. I'm like, he was not on my radar at all. Then I watched that show and I'm like, I'm a damn Kirk Cousins like this guy, because he is what you find out though, watching that, and then you start reading some other interviews with other like big time quarterbacks in the NFL. He's their pick. He's their guy. They think he's one of the most talented QBs in the league. So we had to get some football talk in before we get into all this fishing, but we'll go Vikings then. I can say that. They're NFC. I can say that. And B-Rob's my guy. He used to play there. I was a Vikings fan for a minute. I always pulled for them when B-Rob was up there because you got to pull for a fellow bass fisherman.
Yeah.
How cool was it for you back in those days when he was doing his tournaments? Because I know you got to go to a couple like I did. How special was that for you as a Vikings fan your whole life to look around that room and go, what just happened?
Yeah, it was real fun just with there was players I got to meet, like Harrison Smith when he was like in his prime and one of the best safeties in the league, and just like a bunch of those guys that you realize really quickly that I think a lot of fans in the bass game probably do the same thing, but you realize most of these guys are just like cool dudes, and they're not anything like to be put on a pedestal. They're just like, they're not awesome guys.
And they're not superheroes. They're not superhuman. Like, they work really hard at what they do. And yeah, sometimes, and you're right, as fans of whatever it is, whether it's music, fishing, sports, like we get on those keyboards and we get to rolling, and it's just a dude. He's got kids. He's just doing his job the best he can. And some weeks he doesn't do it as good as we'd like for him to, And so they get beat up a little bit. But dude, I got to take the last one of those I got to go to, Linval Joseph, who was just a dog at the time. But I took Linval on the Mississippi River, and dude, his in my old Ranger, his legs, honest to God, almost came up above the gunnel with him sitting in the passenger seat, dude. Like, he is not a small man at all. And I had one of those like Ranger, like the inflatables, and Big Rob comes down handing out these huge like 4X big ass life jackets, and he goes, "Hey, I got these for all the guys. Okay, y'all distribute them out." And I'm wearing mine, and I hand Linval his, and I've got my little inflatable on with my kill switch hooked up, ready for blast off. And he goes, "I want that one." I said, "Wait, what?" And he goes, I want that. I want what you're wearing." And I said, "Dude, I don't think it's big enough for you." And he goes, "What are you saying?" I'm like, that you're a monstrous human being. Like, I don't know what the capacity is. And I swear, dude, right now, and I need to post this on social at some point, but he wore it all day. I gave it to, because I wasn't going to argue with him. And I've got pictures of him holding up smallmouth with this, and it looks like a necklace. And it's a, and it's my inflatable, like whatever brand it was, Ranger life jacket.
It probably would have choked him out if it gone off.
Yeah. I'm like, how is this going to happen? And I keep thinking to myself, I'm like, dude, if he goes in, I'm never getting him back in here. First of all, he's just drifting in the Mississippi River current forever. And what an intense day on the water with that dude, though. He was so much fun. Like, he still messaged me on social this day, like, great dude, like, follows my stuff. He's with LA now, right? Or no, Philly. I think he's in Philly. He's bounced around a little bit since the Vikings. He was like Pro Bowl that year with the Vikings. Anyway, but it was so intense, and was like, we gonna win? And would just stare at you. And I'm like, I don't know. I've never been. And he's like, well, we better catch some damn fish. And I'm like, oh, yes, sir. And he did. He caught like a 4-pound smallmouth that day, almost 4-pound smallmouth and a 4-pound largemouth. He was like in heaven, man. But loves to fish. But those events, I thought about that this morning when I was kind of getting ready for this. I was like, dude, I bet those events for you, especially because I'm just a pro sports fan. It was just cool being there, but not having the ties to the Vikings necessarily. I just wasn't losing my mind. Like, I bet a true Viking super fan was just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I still got that the thermos that we all got. It's still like the one I drink my coffee out of every dang morning. It's all peeled off and everything, and every once in a while Robinson will see it on like a story for the morning, and he's still like, I gotta get you a new one of those. But
yeah, I text Brian last night, hook them once they beat Alabama. I know he's such a Texas nut as well, so I was texting with him last night about that. But well, dude, I can't thank you enough, because, and we were talking before I hit record, I mean, how do you describe your year and the way it really ended? I mean, for folks that don't know, and if you don't know, shame on you, but Austin was involved in a terrible accident that totaled his Phoenix in downtown Chicago, headed to an event by city bus, correct?
Yeah, it's one of those old school flat city buses on the front side. It was half full of Amish people. It was it was a weird deal.
Did you confirm that they were trying to take out your forward-facing sonar, or how?
No.
Was it a terrorist attack? What's going on?
I don't know what the deal was. It was a rough situation. Like, going into the second half of the season, it's just like, you just got to stay close in points. Like, that's kind of been my MO every year. It's like, if we can stay close before the northern swing, I should be fine if I just do my job. And so that was the start of the northern swing on the way to St. Clair. Fortunately, instead of leaving the day before, I left 2 days early. So yeah, just right in Chicago, came to a stop in traffic, and I don't know if the bus driver was not paying attention or whatever, but I looked in my rearview mirror and he was coming hot, so I let off the brake because we were all at a dead stop, and tried to get around the shoulder, like to give him more room to stop, and I got almost around the car in front of me when he hit me, and so I crunched the corner of the car in front of me too, but knocked the motor off, pushed the boat up into the tailgate and stuff. I really think, fortunately, that I was moving forward, so that took away a lot of the momentum, or that boat very likely could have been in the cab.
Oh my gosh. So you did actually get to move then, at least a little bit, to kind of stop some of the forward momentum. But he never really hit the brakes much. It doesn't sound like he
did, but it had rained earlier that day and he was squealing all the way into it.
Unbelievable, man. So walk us through what happens after that. Cause I heard that the folks at Phoenix, which are fantastic individuals, they got you back in a boat. You had to re-rig fast and get ready to turn around for the northern swing. I mean, how did all that go? Because I know what a daunting task rigging a boat is just in the off season, and it really sucks, even with somebody like Trent Palmer,
Oh
be
yeah.
as good as he is at things, but it's a pain in the butt. So literally having to do that in just a couple days, I can't even imagine.
Yeah, so it happened maybe 5, 6 in the evening, and the record got called. The first thing I did, I called my parents and I called insurance. And my dad grabbed the other truck and basically just headed for Chicago so we could swap out trucks. Then I called. My third call was to Steve Mentz, my rep up here, and he was on the horn. And by the time I got everything figured out at the crash site, he basically told me, I guess there's a Phoenix dealership. It's about 50 miles south of Chicago. He's like, get the boat there. This was on a Saturday. So he's like, 2 of his rigger guys are going to come in tomorrow on a Sunday on their day off. So we can strip that boat. And Andy, our service tech for the
Yeah.
Elite Series, hooked up a boat at the factory and was towing it straight to me that Sunday morning. So Andy got there about 4 p.m. and we already had everything pulled off the boat. And basically, we mounted all the brackets and ran all the electronics. Fortunately, we had Trent Sonar Pro's harnesses, so it was basically just yank it out, shove it
Right.
back in, and that made things a lot easier. So we managed to get the new boat rigged on Sunday, and I got on the road Sunday night and got into Detroit about 2:33 in the morning on Monday morning. But it wasn't without its issues because they needed to get some industrial record to tow the boat because the motor wasn't on it anymore. It was laying sideways on the freeway. And I told them where I needed to go, and they got it all loaded, said it was going to be fine. And then their dispatch, after the boat's on the trailer, told them that they couldn't bring it there. Like, because apparently they have to be within a certain number of miles in case there's another wreck just to clear the highway. I'm like, well, I need it there. He's like, well, I can bring it to our lot. I can get it there first thing Monday morning. I'm like, well, that doesn't work. I don't think you understand. Like, I have to be there. I have places to be. We ended up calling another tow truck service. He's like, there's no way they're going to be able to do it. Well, I said they would. So he just towed my boat to the local mall, which was like 2 blocks away, and dumped it in the parking lot. And
in Chicago, look, no Chicago, but depending on what area you're in, might not be the best thing to happen, right?
Yeah, and it's like 11 at night at this point.
So out on that, I think.
So then the other tow truck driver shows up, gets it on his trailer at like midnight by himself with a little wiggling and whatnot. Having that motor only connected by those like cables is such a huge pain in the ass because it wedges into everything. So yeah, we got it down to the dealership probably at like 2:30 in the morning also, and got a hotel and got to work the next morning. It was a lot of stress.
Well, I was going to say, when you say the word stress, because I've known you for a long time, fished FLW with you, and you don't seem like a guy, at least on the outside, that gets rattled. You don't strike me as that. In that situation, though, I mean, how can you not? Like, I don't know how you, and I joked with you before we started recording that I truly, knowing my mental bandwidth, I would have been like, and I'm out, and I'm going home, and I'm setting this boat on fire right here in the middle of Chicago, and I hate Chicago and buses, and I would have been making rant videos all the way home and just said, I'm done with Bassmaster. Because here's what I'll say, like, it's so fortunate for you, and being at the elites is, you know, the top level of the sport, and it's so good to have people that back you up. But the same thing, not with a bus, but my little buddy Sam George was coming home from an open last year, got hit coming home, totaled his boat, totaled his Phoenix, and he didn't fish the rest of the opens because it got in this big insurance back and forth. So you're so fortunate to be able to, like, hey, I start practice Monday. I left a couple days early, had a little fender bender, and now I'm starting to you know, fish out of another boat. Let me ask you this, though. Where did you end up in that event? I don't remember exactly where you finished, but obviously it was a good finish.
I finished 52nd.
Right out of the cut.
I had a solid day one, but honestly, I was so burnt out. I basically missed like most of one day of practice, and I never went into Anchor Bay. And that's where it all went down. And I had a good day. I had over 20 the first day outside of Anchor Bay, and just couldn't put it together. I still kicked myself for that, but at least I didn't bomb and was able to fish. And driving home, I was kind of like, well, surprisingly enough, going into the Speen River, the event before that, I was like, I just got to, if I can just get close to 50th, I'll be good. And I ended up top 20 in that event. I'm like, so in my head, I'm just like, I'm just going to mentally flip those two and say that I
Smart.
finished 20th in St. Clair and got a top 50 on Sabine, and we're still where we need to be anyways, going into Champlain and St. Lawrence. So it wasn't the end of the world, but
Well,
yeah, everything worked out.
Well, I think to come out and beat half the field and those guys, because especially that week, they blasted them. I think, to just keep that consistency going, because, dude, you're an animal on Champlain. Everybody knows that. You're a northern guy. But I think sometimes for me, because it's the same with like the Johnsons, anybody that's from up north, and you guys are from two totally different parts of the world, but so much gets put on, well, they're going to be great at the northern swing. But, dude, to make the classic, as much as you've made the classic, and to be consistent like you were on the FLW tour, you got to be better than just up north, and you guys are. And I hate that so much weight gets put on. Well, these guys are smallmouth experts. You are, but also you got several other tournaments that lead you up to that. Like you said, a top 20 at the Sabine, which there's nothing like that where you live at all.
No, it's special. Let's say that.
So that's a really good way to put that, mildly. It's special because a lot of bass, not a lot of big ones, but again, there's not anywhere. I know the area you live in, and I think that you could fall off your back deck right now and catch more bass than the Sabine has, because Minnesota's like the most underrated bass state in the country, in my opinion. And obviously look at the anglers it kicks out. I mean, you guys are stone cold assassins all over the country, but nothing that tough up there, though. I don't think, unless maybe you get out of Minnesota and you get over to like La Crosse. The Mississippi River can kind of be stingy over there sometimes, I guess, but still not Sabine bad, I feel like.
No, yeah. I mean, at least you get to see everything up here. We got such a diverse fishery that nothing should really surprise you if you've been doing this your whole life, but it's still, yeah, like I said, this is being special. It's its own different thing. Like when you're the first day of that tournament, I literally caught a 12.5 incher my last cast to fill my limit, and was like, never been so jacked for a 7.5 pound limit in my life.
But that everything you got to put in perspective, though, right? Depending on the fishery. You see those kind of comments on the internet where people are like, I don't want to watch guys fish for 8 pounds. What's also like fishing for 22 somewhere else? I mean, honestly, you just got to put it in perspective on the playing field. That being said, you and I were going back and forth a little bit this week. What are your thoughts on this schedule? Because I made a joke about all the Bassmaster Elite guys that I keep up with were like, hey, fans, what do you think about the schedule? And fans are just inevitable every year, dude. For the last hour, I always do a show about the schedule commenters, because it's always the same thing. You're going to have people go to the West Coast. You're going to have the people say it's only about the money, and then you're going to have the people that are like, they only go to the same lakes, which I can't disagree with the same lake thing. But I do think your schedule is really cool next year, other than the two northern tournaments are kind of the same time of year. They normally are, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most part, same venues, no surprises there. But starting early, like they're kind of avoiding the spawn a little bit, I feel like. Like, what are your thoughts on it? Since you're actually someone that has to compete.
Yeah, I see what they were trying to do. Like, there's only so many lakes, I guess, that they could really choose from, and the fact that they kind of flipped Florida and Texas to start in Texas 2 in a row, and then we got the Classic, and then 2 in Florida later. You've heard people bitch about we come to Florida too early for decades. Like, February is not the time. Come here in April, come here in May, and we saw what Okeechobee did later in the year, this last year, just destroying fish. So I see what they're trying to do to try to keep it fresh, even though I understand why everybody thinks that we go to a lot of the same lakes. We do, but there's a few lakes I've never been on. Wheeler.
Yeah, that's a new one for the elites for the last few years. Anyways, they haven't been since Takahira won, I think.
Yeah, and I don't have the schedule in front of me, so I'm trying to think of it.
Smith, you guys have Smith, which is going to be
a summer.
Yeah, it's the week before the 4th of July, and that place is it gets rowdy, like traffic wise. So that one's going to be very interesting to see what it takes to win weight wise. Like I was talking with Jesse Wiggins a little bit. We were texting. I'm like, dude, what can we even expect? He goes, I don't fish during the day that time of year. I don't know. And he knows that place better than anybody. He's like, dude, really, I don't know. He's like, this is what it takes in night tournaments, but he's like, that's not during the day dealing with wakeboard boats and, with 100 of the best guys out there trying to figure it out. So it's going to be wild. There'll be a forward-facing sonar bitching after that one, I feel like.
Oh, yeah. That was the other thing you heard immediately. Oh, it's another forward-facing sonar tournament or series, the whole thing. And I'm like, oh, I kind of felt like, first of all, I don't think that had any effect on it, but I feel like there's a decent number of shallow events. I feel like Wheeler will be shallow. I feel like the Texas events should hopefully open up everything. The one gripe I have about going to Lake Fork that I've had for a few years is the lake's just so small that if you don't go there at the right time, most of the lake is like not fish or not worth fishing. So it piles everybody up on top of each other. But hopefully going there that early, there'll be fish spread out everywhere and we can all like have a good event. It won't come down to boat draw sort of deal. But
yeah. Those offshore deals and like shad spawn deals you're talking about, everybody kind of bunches up on the same 6 or 8 points or whatever.
Yeah, the one time I really did well was when it was a spawn event and literally you could go in any pocket out anywhere and catch fish because they were spread out all over everything. But a lot of people don't like spawn events, so let's argue about that too now.
That's exactly so. I had Justin Atkins in studio last week and we were joking about the people that bitch about forward facing sonar and all the crazy internet, back and forth. And I said, these are the same people though that go, I don't want to see them bed fish. I don't want to watch a guy stare at a bass not fishing. It's the same ones though that go, I don't want them to go to the Sabine. This is bull crap. And dude, for me, the forward facing thing, when you guys go up north, the smallmouth tournaments now, and I've always loved the smallmouth events just because, and I said this last week, it is relatable for me because I've been there. Like I've seen those bodies of water and it's interesting watching, especially experts like yourself and other northern anglers break them down and go, oh, okay, that's really cool to see how they attacked this. But with forward face in the last few years, dude, these tournaments have just been stupid. Like weight wise, fish catch wise, the live coverage, they look like puppet masters, just yanking straight the whole time. And I'm like, if you can get on here and say this is boring, like people trying to scoop 5-pound smallmouth all day long, like inject that into my veins. I'm here for that. So it's you're never gonna make everybody happy. That's for sure.
No, yeah, and I think a lot of people don't understand what that show would look like without forward facing up north. It would be a lot of the same stuff, just a lot less fish catching.
Yes. A lot
of fish have gotten so used to it. The fish don't sit on anything. That's what I said about Champlain. I top 10 Champlain roughly in the same areas that I've top 10 Champlain several times already. But I have little rock piles and everything out there and 25, 30 plus feet of water that I just run dots and catch them off the rocks. The fish don't set up on those rocks anymore. Like literally, they just swim around moving. And it's like the fish have become so much more pelagic that the only way to catch those fish without forward facing would be to drive around with your 2D just barely on plane until you see a bunch of bait and either throw a jerk bait or something and like pray you get it over them or like see them on your 2D when you get lucky enough to run directly over them and you drop down on them.
Do you attribute, because like take a lake like Champlain, you're definitely, your resume can prove and back up that you are dialed on that fishery. And I heard Zona say that on the live that, for years, his take was, I just didn't think we didn't have this technology and we were fishing for them wrong, basically. And he's like, and turns out there were thousands of them behind us. You seem to think, they've changed then. Is that due to fishing pressure, forward facing, or is that due to maybe there are more pelagic bait fish in the fishery than ever before? You know what I'm saying? Like, what do you attribute that to? Why they don't set up like they used to? Because I see that on the Tennessee River as well. I do, but it was really started before forward facing, in my opinion.
I think it has a lot to do with them just getting used to the added pressure and forward facing.
Okay.
They know that they can't just set up and sit somewhere. Like, being on the move keeps them safer in general. It's definitely made a difference. I assume the same thing was happening in years past, but you'd have the fish swim around, but you'd have that little group of 4 or 5 that would slide up onto your little rock pile and I'm going to chill here. And as long as nobody had hit it for a while, you could go over there and pick one off and you'd catch one. And it went from a few years ago, catch 2 or 3, or catch every single one of them even, to the last year we were there, you'd slide up there and you'd catch one and you'd watch them leave. And this year they never even got on it. Like, I checked all that stuff a few times and you catch fish around it, but nothing was set up on structure the way you'd expect it. When you drive over 2D, you'd be like arced up on top of it or anything.
Yeah. Interesting. That's and to be fair, you are a forward facing sonar fan, correct? That's the best way to put it. You enjoy utilizing it.
Yeah. I think we're the best in the sport. We should have everything, every tool available for us. I don't understand. I don't see any good argument for limiting it anyways. Like, I can understand some arguments for banning it if you're going to like
just cold turkey
statewide or something like that, but I don't see any good arguments about it besides the whole intrinsic value of bass fishing that you're ruining. But like, I'm here to catch fish. This isn't a reality TV show in a sense. This is a competition, and I'm trying to use everything I can. And I think it's fun, and I think I learn a ton from it.
For sure. But see, I think that goes back to your Champlain rock pile thing. And obviously you would know way more than me that they set up different, but it comes down to, because I think about this at home now where I see fish and I'm like, whoa, why are they out there? And it's like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? You know what I mean? That argument, were they always there? Because I don't know, because I never looked out there before. Now I do. But at the same time, I agree with you. I'm starting to see there's a few little deals that they just don't do anymore. Like, there's a lake I fish a lot on the Tennessee River, and used to, dude, October, November, you could just go down the bank and throw a buzz bait. You could take one rod and you would get 6 to 10 bites, and they'd all be big ones, and you'd land some of them, you'd miss some of them, whatever. Dude, they don't even get on the bank anymore in the fall. Like, they don't put their head up. You could go throw it for 5 days straight and never get a blow up. It's that crazy, but that started changing, to be fair, before forward facing. But our lakes have a lot more bait in them now than I ever remember seeing when I was a kid, for whatever reason. I don't know if that's milder winters, but they're just chock full. And even our largemouth in a lot of the fisheries have become more pelagic. They roam out in you be fishing a stretch of docks and they'll come up schooling over 40 feet of water, almost like a blueback lake, if that makes sense. Like, it's interesting, but I think nature does have a way of changing, and we have to adapt at times. And I don't want to try to attack those fish without forward facing, though. Like, and I'm a fan of it, obviously. But I'm with you. It has to be, if they do something, you can't just limit it. I think you've got to just get rid of it all the way around. Justin and I talked last week, and I do think it's a little crazy that guys run 4 transducers, but also if you can, then do it. Walter's won with 1. I've watched him in MPFL over his shoulder all year. He's just got 1 on there. I know I'm buddies with Palmer like you are. I talk about all the crazy different ways people rig their boats. I know Taku's got them shooting every which way. What's your setup like?
Uh, this year I ran one active target for most of the season, and then before the Sabine River, I put on a second one just to have in scout mode. And honestly, I never used it
Okay.
really. The only time I ever use that scout mode is up here on Mille Lacs because it's easy to find boulders and stuff
Okay.
just faster. But like I could have done everything I did with just one transducer. And but even so, like I don't think limiting it is the right way to go at all. I'm really good buddies with Taku. I've talked to him about it, and basically he puts his on his transom because he's not very good at reading traditional side scan.
Yeah.
That's the way he puts it. So he'll watch his side scan and watch his panoptics, and then he can kind of understand what he's seeing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't have any. Why should that bother anybody? He's like trying to figure out how to catch and find fish, like whether like he's not using them actually fishing. And then he goes up front and uses. I think he had two transducers on his trolling motor,
Yeah.
and like that new saltwater one's kind of cool. Like if we can do it, I might have to grab something like that later. But,
So he was on the show and he said the exact same thing you just did. He said there's not a lot. The way he described it was there aren't enough bass in Japan for him to know what they look like on side scan, and so he was at such a severe disadvantage. He doesn't know, and he said I can tell you what they look like on live scope, so I mounted them on each side of my jack plate, and I compare and contrast like that. And dude, I thought that was genius. Now, also, you better be running 9 batteries, and that's a lot of draw. But if you're willing to take the risk, so be it. But he is. I love that point though, and it got me thinking. I'm like, damn, do I need to ride around with, live scope off the side of the boat? That's interesting. But Trent Palmer will be rigging people with 9 transducers for us all over with.
And like everybody tried like leaving your trolling motor down and setting it on the back and then driving. And I'm like, this just doesn't really work for me. I feel like I'm wasting my time. Half the time it comes out of the water. It's just like just let the guys do what they want. Like, why put all these extra regulations? If you limit it, it's just, first of all, it's going to piss off electronics companies, and it's not going to solve a single problem people are complaining about, anglers or fans. Whether you have 1 or 5, they're still going to have the boring events with the guy looking down at it. And whether you have 1 or 5, the same guys are going to win the same events. And the guys that did poorly and the guys that are upset about it are still going to go home with their tail between their legs. And honestly, we didn't even, like, on the Elite Series, for the most part, we didn't really hear the complaining until the last couple events.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it seemed like it was a very time sensitive matter, right? Like it wasn't a thing, and then all of a sudden, oh my God, it's the biggest issue in the world after St. Lawrence.
And was it because we had 3 smallmouth events, or was it because the season came to an end and a lot of guys realized where they were finishing?
Yeah, I think it's a combination probably.
And so it's just like at St. Lawrence, all of a sudden it just like became this crescendo. Like I didn't make Sunday, so I was on live and I hung out at the weigh-in all day, and it was just like there was a buzz about all these anglers that are all of a sudden like, oh, we have to do something about this. And I'm like, dude, this is
Well, I think I said that to you one day on social. You posted a meme that said, come and take it, or don't tread on me. Some along those lines. The transducer made me laugh really hard. But it's very much that the griping and complaining, man, I don't get it, because the damn thing was released 5 years ago. Why are we now? Are people figuring out more and more and more and more and more about it? Absolutely. But I still don't think there's anything groundbreaking now versus 2 years ago. Like, I feel like guys are we learning new techniques and things, and are companies designing lures and making things? Yes. But it's not any more groundbreaking to me what's going on now than it was just a couple of years back. So why we're so pissed off now just blows my mind.
That's our job on the Elite Series. I feel like you have, if you think about it in like a sense of like education, you have high school guys, college guys, and when you go to college for something, you kind of understand it. But by the time you get your doctorate in something, you're on the front edge of whatever
Yeah.
that is. You're trying to expand, you're trying to learn new things and that kind of thing. And as an Elite Series Pro, I feel like we all have our doctorate in bass fishing. And our job is to expand bass fishing, figure out new ways to do things, figure out new ways to use current technology, current equipment to just fish better. And it's that sort of uh, education trickles down to the masses. And I feel like that's what I watched Bass Live for when I was growing up, to learn new things. And I feel like you can still get that. The problem is there's so much live coverage now, and everything that people are getting desensitized to it, and it's not as exciting. And like I watched Castledine put out a video here the other day. It basically said back when you could do the TV show, you could create a story.
Yes.
So everybody
and build up drama and
yeah. So even in these boring events, you could still build drama and get people excited about it and whatnot. Well, when you have 3 different events putting out 8 hours of live shows, so you get live 20 days a month, it's just like people are.
No, I get it. Dude, I get, well, I think that, and back in the day as well, you did not have the constant need for either content, or you didn't have the constant flow of information, to be fair, that we do now. And so with Bass Track and all this stuff, it made the show more endearing when it finally came out, because it was your only way of really going, oh, how did Austin catch him? What was he using to catch him? I've got to tune into this hour. Well, now I got bait galleries, I've got Instagram stories, you've got your own social media you'll update, you've got all these things, their live coverage. By the time it actually gets to the final day weigh-in, I feel like, well, I know everything that happened, right? And used to it wasn't that way. And I do think people do desensitize is such a fantastic way to put that, because live was this groundbreaking thing a few years ago, and they only did it for a few hours and then they shut it down. And then it became this, well, we got to go 6 or 7 hours, right? And now it's all day long. And you're talking to a guy that does it for MPFL. It's a long day. And I can tell you, from a guy that sits in the studio and I watch all the cameras, regardless of just the one we're commentating that's on the program feed, I see all of it. Dude, watching fishing for 6 hours, as obsessed with it as I have been since I was 10 years old, is boring. I don't care if you're looking at forward-facing sonar, you're flipping bushes. Fishing, other than these 30-second to 2-minute windows of holy crap, what just happened, it's also the same when you're out on the water. It's boring a lot of the time, other than these fleeting moments of, oh, we're kind of dialed and we got this excited. So it's always been boring to watch, especially if you got to watch it for hours and hours and hours on end. And I love that. I do love the point of having the concise show, and it did build the drama. But I think those days are over. They are. They've got to figure out a way. And I can tell you, just with MPFL this week, we had a meeting, all hands on deck, because we got 2 events left. We're going to Eufaula, Oklahoma, and then down to old TP himself's backyard down there to the Trent Palmer Charity Open down there, MPFL on Lake Lanier in October. But we're trying to figure it out, like how to make it better for the viewer, because we've got 2 fall events. And if you threw a dart at it, I'd say they're going to be one with forward-facing sonar. Now, Eufaula, Oklahoma, maybe not, but Lanier, if it's not, well, somebody can slap me. I feel like that one's going to be one with forward-facing sonar, with guys like Trent and Corbishley and Walters in it, cruising around down there with history on those lakes, and some other young guys. So we're talking about it, but dude, there's just no rock solid way to cover it better.
Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those deals, like if you're watching to learn, you've never been in a better opportunity than right now.
I agree.
And if you're watching it strictly for entertainment value, you might not enjoy it. Tune in for a couple hours, tune out. And I understand, like, people say, oh, the numbers are down. I don't know if the numbers are down or not. Like, I haven't seen any of that stuff. I don't think 99.9% of the people that talk about it have said anything about it. I feel like most of those people are going to tune in next year, no matter what happens. Like, if you're complaining about it, you're still watching it.
It's a million percent. It's the world we live in, right? I think that, and I've said this week in and week out here, the minority is always the loudest, typically on social media. Most people that are tuning in to watch you on Bassmaster Live probably don't even have a Facebook account or care to go comment, right? I mean, I've got thousands and thousands and thousands of what I consider, and they call themselves the low lifers on this show. And I'll get it right. Like, I see the numbers, like I know what the views are, I know what the downloads are. And then there's 100 comments on an episode, right? Like, and half of those, some weeks, depending on what I'm talking about, will be screw you piece of crap. And dude, I mean, those are the loudest at times, right? And I feel like you've got all these people that are very loyal to something, but they just don't. They're like, I'm too busy. I'm not going to take the time to get in here and get the fingers going. And I'm the same way, dude. I've never commented on a YouTube video other than to, like, absolutely give Todd Castledine an enormous pile of crap because because he's one of my guys in life. We talk a lot, but I love to just, like, get in his live feed when he does one of those and just troll him and trash him because his fans that don't know anything about me get so upset. It makes me happy. Like, it makes me like, leave Todd alone. And I'm like, no, he's fat and stupid.
And based on your fan base, like, I know a bunch of guys are putting out polls and stuff, and the results are so skewed based on fan base. Like Swindle put his out and said 75-80% of people don't like watching it. At the same time, Zaldane puts one out and says it's 2-1 to 3-1 in favor of keeping it.
Yeah.
And it's right. like your standard deviation is a little far off at that point. If you're
that's it, man. And I think I said it last week, and I don't mean to disrespect anybody when I say this, but you lead a horse to water, they'll drink at times too, right? So if if you have a fan base that loves you and you're throwing a statement out there, they're going to tend to want you to go, oh, he thinks like I do. You know what I mean? They're going to back you up. And no, because I've seen it on here. Like, I've said things that people probably don't believe, but they're like, Luke said it, so I'm all, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're in their day to day, they might not think that, but they want you to think, hey man, I'm on your side about this kind of deal. And I think and dude, that again goes way beyond fishing. You can see that whatever you bleed purple for your damn Vikings, you believe Kirk Cousins should run for president, probably. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, Vikings fans,
considering the options,
1,000,000%. Kirk Cousins for prez. You just heard it here. He would wear the chain to the Oval Office. How about that? What's his line? Says, I can't remember what he was saying.
Oh, you like that?
You like that? He tried to get fired up.
Yeah.
Such a dork, and I love it, man.
Just dancing.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. They just have a field day. Oh, you got me.
I mean, the one other thing I'm worried about is, like, on the tournament side of it, like, because we had Bass called every single one of us to see what we wanted to do after right after St. Lawrence. Like, we got home and 2 days later, they wanted to know what we thought, if we should keep it the same, limit it, or ban it. And this is the part that I don't like about anglers making a lot of decisions, because I feel like a lot of times we're really emotional and short-sighted about what we do. Like, the most recent rule change expanding our field to 100 boats was a angler decision, and I voted against it just because, honestly, I didn't see how it would help us as a group. Like, I understood a few guys are gonna get kicked out because of it, but there aren't many anglers at this point, 2 years after that say that was a good idea, just because there was a there was a pie of money that Bass was giving us, and that pie doesn't expand with the extra anglers. It just gets split up more so. And we went from basically almost everybody at least getting a little check to now we're not even technically paying 50% of the field. We pay to 50 places, but when we expand to 100, it was 100 plus exemptions and everything. So we're at 104 and still only paying 50 spots. We're not even to that 50% threshold anymore. And it's just like, guys, we're kind of shooting ourselves in the foot.
Those are the issues you want to see anglers get more passionate about than forward-facing sonar, though, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, let's get the payouts where they should be. Let's get this sport headed in the right direction again.
And it's not to say we aren't passionate about that, but there's only so much you can do. And like, it's back in FLW days, it was kind of that thing we'd argue every spring of how we were going to move the money around. It's the same size pot, but how are we going to pay it out? And what are we going to do with it? Like, I remember that nonsense too. And it's a lot of the same.
Yeah. Brad Knight and I were talking about that this week. We were on that panel, you know, those panel meetings, and you would just sit in there and just go round robin, man. Just all the, oh my gosh. If I would have had a GoPro back then to film some of those meetings, they would be some of the greatest YouTube videos ever. Just certain pros screaming out, we need to be paid $1 million and not pay any entry fees, or I'm never fishing again. And then they're like, well, we're going up on entry fees. Okay, I'll be back.
But instead, we're trying to alienate all three electronics companies and
at the same time. Yeah.
At the same time. Like, they put a bunch of money towards that pie that we're splitting up, right, that we're going to have to find elsewhere. It's like, that's one of the deals. Like, do you want to fish without forward facing sonar if we're paying $6,500 per tournament to try to win 10 grand?
Yeah.
Like, there's already like maybe 2,500, $3,000 you're taking off the top if you make a 10 grand check. So if you cut that in half, like, guys are going to be really scraping by.
No doubt, dude. And that's a great point, because I do gripe about the industry as a whole is very, it's doing well. It's done well the last few years, especially, but the endemic sponsors, that pie it's split up, right? We know that multiple tournament trails, multiple anglers, all these different things. But the electronics companies, I will say, they support the professional fishing game. They do, because they know you guys are on the front lines. That, like you said, you're educators. You're teaching the rest of us what you should be doing to catch bass. That you guys are the go-tos. You're the authority for the most part, and they do support it. And so you got to be careful what you wish for. And I've said that, like, Gorman's not an official sponsor of Bass, but they do support it financially. You got Humminbirds spending money. Lowrance they're all spending money with every company. And so be careful. It's a slippery slope. And I think it's so banning anything too, man. Like, it's weird for me. I thought that with the A-rig. I'm like, why are we getting rid of a damn, I get it to a certain extent, but once its effectiveness, it wore off, dude. It was dominant for a little bit. And I'd like to, hell, throw it back in there. Let's go. Bring the A-rig back. Limit it. It's just a tool.
The only argument I saw about the A-rig was the fact that regulations were so much different in every state that it could have made things confusing. And like, obviously forward facing doesn't have any regulation right now, so there's nothing to do with that. But yeah, like, at this point, I wouldn't have any issue with bringing back A-rigs, except I think they're a pain in the ass to deal with, like putting your rod locker or anything, or just carry equipment
for it all day. Yeah, it sucks.
It's just a hassle. But I mean, here in the fall, I'll go up to Mille Lacs, and on Minnetonka, we can only throw one hook, but I'll still throw an A-rig with one hook and just like three or four dummies and a bunch of spinners and stuff. And if you set it up right, they'll still eat the one hook 95% of the time.
Really? So, that's interesting. You heard it here, folks. One hook rigs. Well, dude, Bass went to something like that. Just bring it back. I don't know. I just think it's a tool in the box. It's like what was the old front runner, like the schooling fit? You can't use that anymore, right? Isn't that? I think that's illegal.
Can't use that. We can't double fluke rig.
That's silly.
But
Yeah, that's silly. I'm gonna get on my platform. I'm gonna start commenting on Bass and stuff. Bring back the donkey rig. The donkey rig. Dude, I gotta ask you this, and then we'll wrap it up. Why pajama pants? When did that ever become? Because I can remember you walking into FLW meetings with your pajama pants on the off days. I'm like, well, he's comfortable. But then you wore them fish. When did that become? You're like, I'm just gonna do this.
I don't know. And dude, it was kind of just like a fluid transition. Like I feel like I've told this story a few times, but
Yeah.
it was just like I'd wear shorts and then I'd wear pajama pants over them, and then I'd wear my bibs. And just because it was easy to like shed layers and it's
Yeah.
cold in the morning. And there were a few days in tournaments where it was like it got warm enough to take the bibs off, but not warm enough to wear shorts. And then inevitably you'd end up rolling across the stage in pajama pants. And after it happened a few times, it just sort of became a thing. I
You knew
honestly,
it.
with FLW, I never really thought it was that big of a thing until my rookie year when Mercer made up
Yeah.
the nickname. And I'm
Yeah.
like, why do you know this? Like,
He
it
did
just
his
did.
research. He's
Yeah,
those
apparently.
photo galleries selling those plaid pajama pants and those FLW top tens.
Yeah. So, like, that's kind of, and then it became a thing. Ronnie Moore, when I moved over, was like, dude, you can't wear pajama pants on the Elite Series. There's a dress code. And I'm like, we'll see about this. And I ended up finding two pairs of like identical, like high end golf pants that are like the loud John Daly golf pants that are like blue plaid. So, like, from a distance, going across the classic stage, nobody knows the difference. And I've actually got blowback from that before because I've heard of a few sponsors that are like, he'd have a lot more success if he didn't have wear those pants. And I'm just like, well, if that's how you feel, you can kiss my ass.
Yeah, I think, dude, we need individuals in this world, right? Like that's what makes the world go around. I love that.
Yeah, you got to do something to separate yourself. And if it's something as trivial as wearing loud pants, then I guess that's an easy way to do it, right?
Dude, I
Because I'm
get
not really that loud on my own.
no, you are a very calm, cool, collected cat. There's no doubt about it. And I think that I get really in the professional, like my TH side work life. I think it's really dumb that people tuck their shirts in. Like I get offended by I'm telling on myself. The comments will be on fire. But I hate khaki pants and I hate tucking shirts in. And whoever decided, it's like the people that decided that certain words were cuss words that you can't say. Like it blows my mind that there was a guy that was like, you know what? Hey, wrap that piece of leather around your waist and shove that shirt down in there. Now pull it out like a parachute. Now you're professional.
Inevitably, like half the guy's sponsors are tucked down in his butt crack.
I don't get it. I don't get it. We had a guy that will remain nameless. We'll end with this today, Austin Felix. We had a guy on MPFL, our first ever events, me and Dudley in studio, and at Eufaula, and he tucked his jersey. He had apparently had a little bathroom break while we were away from him. We go back to him, tucked his jersey down into the back of his boxers, and his boxers were hanging over above his pants. And they go to him, and I'm just me. I was like, can somebody help a brother out? Can somebody, I'm like yelling at the camera guys, at the director. I'm like, can somebody can we get away from it? It was so bad. But it happened, man. And so we cut away and he sorted it out. But that did indeed happen. Austin Felix, I'm appreciative of your pajama pant wearing self, buddy. You're always honest and one hell of a fisherman that quietly has won. By the way, I love delivering this news to people because you don't strike me as a guy that keeps up with this, but I do this on the show a lot. Over $760,000 in combined career earnings between FLW and Bassman. You're getting close to that $1 million mark, buddy. Not too far away. That's nothing to see that.
A couple of years, hopefully.
Yeah.
Maybe one or two. If I'm Joey Cifuentes, I can do it next year.
Hey, listen, nobody's living life better than Cowboy Joe. Right? He did one for America with Larry Nixon. I mean, he's living it up, but it can be done. Go win 3 next year. I'm here for it.
Yeah, all right.
Austin Felix, I appreciate you. Everybody go follow Austin Felix Fishing all over the place. I appreciate you, dude. Go Vikings.
All right. We'll stay in touch.
Thanks, buddy.
We'll talk to you later.
All right, that's all she wrote with Austin Felix up there in Vikings country. Hope you all enjoyed that. The sauce presented by the W Sauce right there, America's Worcestershire sauce. Hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. He's an interesting dude. He's very dialed in what he does, and he's opinionated, and I like that. I like that. He's not scared to give his thoughts on things, and been wanting to have him on for a while, and I'm glad it worked out to have him on. Thank y'all for tuning in each and every week to Low Budget Live. I surely appreciate each and every low lifer out there more than you realize. It's amazing that I get to do this. Can't thank you enough. I'm going to take you out with some Biloxi Blues. Hope you all have a fantastic week, and I'll see y'all next time. See ya.
Town to Tupelo, I never could make it last. Spanish moss and Civil War ghosts, well, I'm gonna leave them in the past. Any direction, Lord, I'll be fine. It don't matter east or west. North, south, wherever the wind blows, I'm leaving those burdens at rest. This highway, it does not know my name, and I don't care, no, I don't care. Heading my way for another place, and I got 3 good tires and a spare. Just a white line gypsy getting out of Mississippi with just enough gas.